up the world, it's a brand new flow. Stories are brewing with Joe. Pull up a seat, let your truth unfold. Real talk, real hearts, real souls. It's coffee and conversations with Joe, where your voice has room to grow. No judgment, just love that flows. Coffee and conversation.
Good morning, y'all. I know y'all was not expecting to see me on a Thursday, right? At 12 o'clock noon. Grab your coffee. That's your boy Joe Lockett. We're live at the Flip the Coffee Party. If you ain't got the coffee, you need to get it because I got a great interview lined up for you guys today. Y'all have seen him on the campaign trail, hanging out with Doug Jones and everybody, right? Running up and down Birmingham, Alabama, and Alabama, all the roads. I've seen him, and I didn't think he was going to come on my show. Be honest with y'all. But he's busy, man. He's a busy man. And I finally was able to get in touch with his team, and they finally got back in touch with us. And we got him in the building, in the coffee house, the Flip the Coffee Party, the one and only Phillip Ensler.
Thank you so much. Good to be here.
He's running for Lieutenant Governor of Alabama. How's it going?
It's going well. Anytime I have a coffee, I'm even happier and good to have good conversation. And appreciate you having me on. It really means a lot.
Thank you. You are a hard person to get in to slow down. So thank you so much for taking the time to come to the coffee party and hang out with me and have a conversation.
Yeah, listen, once I'm running and there, I'm going nonstop. And it's, there's so many with all 67 counties. It's so important to reach as many places. I've committed to going all 67. So yeah, I'm keeping busy, but it's really good to be here.
One thing I'm gonna say about your team, very professional. You got a great team.
Awesome.
So kudos to your team. Yes. Y'all did a great job. We appreciate you guys. I want to talk to you. So how is it going? Because I asked all my candidates, and y'all guys always, it's going good. Phillip, how's it? Is it fair to call you Phillip?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. How is it going on the campaign trail?
So it is going well, and I'll give you the well, and I'll tell you what's challenging.
Okay.
It is. Look, it's honestly tiring. It is running statewide. I mean, I'm in Montgomery, so on any given day, I'm coming up here, I'm going to Huntsville, I'm going to Mobile, anywhere in between. So it is physically tiring, but I am energized by meeting people and getting out there. And there are so many people who they're not necessarily plugged into exactly what's happening day to day in politics. They just want to know, are there people out there that care about them, that are going to focus on solutions? So it's tiring getting out there. The coffee helps. And then certainly meeting people, though, really energizes me.
What made you, this is a big seat that you're running for Lieutenant Governor, what made you want to do this?
So I currently serve in the legislature. My district's all in Montgomery, and it has been a huge honor serving and trying to make a difference. And I am grateful that I've had the opportunity to represent District 74 in Montgomery, but I want to build off of that work and expand on that record. I've gotten a lot done at the legislature, things that help people's lives, and we can certainly get more into that. But just building on that record of service, my parents instilled in me that in this world, you have to, try to make a difference and try to serve others. And I've done that through public service in the political realm, and certainly want to build and continue doing that.
Let me ask you this, because it's just a conversation about it.
Yeah.
What did the family say when you decided, okay, we know you want to go, now you want to be the lieutenant governor? What did the family say? Like, you say you want to know this? What did they say?
Yeah. So my mom was very proud and supportive, and she wants me to be happy and knows that that's in my heart. I have a twin sister, and she also is.
Wait a minute, you got a twin?
I have a twin sister.
Oh, she's
5 minutes older than I am.
So she's the oldest.
So
she have an older sister.
I have an older sister, and
I'm getting on it for you. Don't worry about it.
And she very much treats me like a younger brother, and I love her. We're incredibly close. And my dad passed away 3 years ago, and we were also very, very close, and that's been really difficult. But he was so supportive of me running for the legislature, and he was putting together yard signs. He was walking around in public in my T-shirt. He was stopping people. He literally stood on the street waving my campaign sign, saying, vote for my son. So I know that he would be proud of this and supportive, and very much in working hard to win, that he's with me in spirit. So the family, very supportive, and having that makes a big difference.
So let's go here. For people who don't, what is this?
Yeah, there's a little
gnat?
gnat flying
What
around.
is this
It's
thing?
with the weather this time of
took a
year.
bath. Yeah, I'm clean. For the people who don't know you, right, and they're meeting you for the first time on this platform, tell me about you. Talk to them.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go way back to when I was in even high school. So I got really interested in civil rights and social justice, and was taught at a young age that everybody should be treated fairly, that the laws should be just, and that everybody should have a fair shot. And I learned a lot about the civil rights movement, and not just the quick, the march and Rosa Parks, but really learned a lot about the Freedom Riders and learned about Freedom Summer and those that were registering voters. And I felt really inspired by that at a young age. So I knew I wanted to do something in the world of law or civil rights. And fast forward though, when I was in college, the program Teach for America was recruiting, and they had a very strong message of service and working with others. And I applied to do it. I was a political science major, thought I was going right to law school, but Teach for America said, hey, why don't you come teach for a couple of years? Mm-hmm. So I applied and did that. I taught at Lee High School in Montgomery, and it literally changed my life. It made it that I'm now focused on working with young people, and I've been doing that ever since. And I still then eventually went to law school and have done a lot of work around criminal justice related issues, and again, fighting for a fair state and fair community for all. But I've continued that work, mentorship with young people, and have done that. And that's continued on to my service in politics.
So let me ask you this. What is a typical day in a Phillip's world? When the time you wake up, right? What are you doing? Do you look at your phone? Do you look at the emails? Or do you go to social media? Typical day in the Phillip's world.
Yeah. So the first thing I think about, the very first thing, I think about my dad, and I say a quick little prayer of knowing that he is with me in spirit, and no matter what happens throughout the day, that he'll be with me, and that gives me some strength. Say a quick prayer thinking of my dad, certainly a prayer to God, and just ask for the strength of the day ahead. And then I admittedly, though, start scrolling my phone and checking social media and the news and seeing did anything happen overnight, and do that. I have family and friends who are all over the country, and so people are in different time zones. So some are just waking up, some are waking up, and I got to go make some coffee and
Okay.
Nothing fancy, but just some cold brew and make that.
I'm gonna send you away with some of my coffee.
Awesome. It really, growing up, like people with, adults who are like, don't talk to me until I have my cup of coffee in the morning. And I was like, what's wrong with them? And now I've learned, I'm like, I get it.
Don't talk to me unless I got my coffee.
And I learned, I was like, it gets you going. So I do that. And then I do admittedly put on the news and keep it running in the background a lot of the day. But after that, I mean, every day is different. And when we're in session at the legislature, I'm usually getting ready to head over to the state house and debate bills and propose legislation. Days on the campaign trail, I'm, like this morning, came up here first thing. So every day is different. And I am grateful for that. Every day brings a new opportunity and a chance to meet people. And then I'm more of a night owl, though. Like once I get home, 10, 11 o'clock, that's when I'm responding to emails. That's when I'll watch the news for a little bit longer, but I've made it a rule that I'll now only watch Sports Center for the hour before bed, just to tune out it a little bit. And, I'm a big baseball fan, certainly with the NBA playoffs, there are some good late games on. So that helps at the end of the day while I'm still responding to messages. And I'm big on, if people text me or email me, I want to respond that day. So even if it takes a little bit, even if it's late, I'll get back to them, later in the day.
So I heard the busy guy.
Yeah.
Right. That's great. Yeah. But what do you do for fun?
Yeah, so I promise that I do take time to relax,
okay.
And I, enjoy sometimes not doing anything, and certainly watching sports. I mean, is the if I'm home and just hanging out, and I love throwing stuff on the grill and cooking, and that causes me to slow down as well. Especially when I cook, and everything from anything I put on the grill, I think is great. So whether it's
Right.
chicken, burgers, steak, fish, I mean, I love doing that, and it's relaxing for me, and it causes me to not be so caught up in everything that's going on. So certainly that, and then spending time with family and friends, even if we're just sitting there, watching whatever given movie or TV show, just taking that time to be with people that I care about and love is important.
For me, having fun, it sounds really crazy.
Yeah.
Turning off the TV, sitting there for hours in the quiet.
Yeah.
That's fun to me because I'm so busy, right? I turn off my phone or I put my phone in another room, put it on silent, right? And I can sit there literally for about 2 hours, right? And just be quiet because for me, I think I try my best to see what's going to come to me, right? What God is going to talk to me about because I'm so busy and maybe he's trying to tell me something or then put something in front of me and I miss it. So I can't say I don't do it all the time, but when I really just want to like decompress, I just turn off everything. And I just sit there or lay in the bed or lay on the sofa and relax. That is relaxing for me.
I love that. No, and it makes me think of from the prophet Elijah, the still small voice, and in order to channel that, you got to have that
hear it.
Quiet and stillness, right? And you have to have, and I certainly do that. I mean, I have found that even just just anywhere, but even like going for a walk in downtown Montgomery, and I'll go walk by Dexter Avenue Baptist Church where Dr. King was pastor, and at night it's so quiet, and I can just hear that those deeper thoughts. So I'm glad to hear you take the time. It's important to do that.
Well, I think for me is people think because I work out like that's for the fun part of me. It has become it's a hobby. It's a habitual thing that I have to do now, but it's sometimes like it's work. Sometimes I don't feel like doing, but I have to go do it anyway because I'm old and I don't want to lose the little bit that I have. It's like I have to stay in there. But my fun time now is not the gym. It's no people, quiet, me and God. And he don't talk to me often, right? It's hard for me I don't know about people listening to this show today, but it's hard, right, to just be quiet and quiet your mind. Have you ever tried to really just quiet your mind and not think about nothing?
It's so every now and then I'll do yoga. I have a bad lower back and have found that doing
do yoga?
Every now and then I'll do it and it helps. But then when the instructor says, clear out all the thoughts, don't and it's like hard because then your mind wants to
because you start hearing everything, right?
Right. And then you start thinking about, what do I need to get groceries later and I need to do this. But I have found that once I get into the breathing, like the deep breaths and focusing on the breathing helps then, because then I'll focus on just the breathing and all of a sudden the thoughts go away. And really it's so important. And I always say after I do it, I wish I should do this more often. But then I immediately get busy and I'm, same thing. It feels.
And it takes me about 20 minutes to actually calm down to hear myself breathe.
Yeah.
Because even though I'm hearing myself breathe, I'll stop and I start thinking again. Right. So it takes me about a good 20 to 30 minutes to actually get to the state of quiet. Right. If I'm patient long enough to get there. Okay. So that's always, I love to see how people actually, relaxing at the end of the day. So on the campaign trail, I want to know this here because I love hearing candidates talk about term. Tell me something fun that you had experience happen to you since you've been out there.
So that's a great question. So I would say the most fun thing is that everywhere I go, people have different, regionally in Alabama, there are different foods, and people want to make sure you eat, that you're well fed, and that you try their food. And so I've been eating well on the campaign trail, and that's been a really fun part of it is just wherever we may be, that whatever local food there may be, just giving that a try.
What's the one food you've never tried that you found that you actually like?
Ooh, that's a good question. I tried. So someone there. So of course I've had pimento cheese, but there's someone I know who makes like a special pimento cheese where they put little capers in it, and it's like you wouldn't think that would be it, but it adds a really good, just extra little flavor,
tang to it?
A little tang. Yeah, okay. I know it made me sound weird, but I promise it was really good.
It's really good.
Yeah.
So as you're running for office, when you're elected? Tell me some of the things that you want to accomplish.
Yeah, so there's a lot I want to accomplish, and I'm a big believer in once you're in office, and certainly in my role now, that we're there to get things done. People do not elect people to sit there and just go have a good time. The biggest thing is putting more money in people's pockets and focusing. Right now, I know the word affordability almost gets, it feels like it may be overused, but to most people, it is a very real thing that they're having a hard time, whether it's buying groceries, whether it's paying for gas, whether it's paying a car note or their rent or their utility bill. And, the government can't solve all of that, but there are things that we can do, like cutting the grocery tax, like eliminating the tax on overtime. There are people that are working extra hours on hourly jobs to put more money in their pockets, but then the government is taxing it and taking that. And if someone is working class, middle class, we shouldn't be taxing that overtime. I've proposed a lottery where we would send rebate checks to people to help them pay their bills. So certainly dealing with the cost of living. Another huge one is healthcare, though. And I know, look, in Birmingham, it's, there are a lot of great hospitals here, but there are a lot of people that don't have access to affordable health insurance, and those monthly premiums, the co-pays, the deductibles. I mean, it's insane. And in a lot of the rural parts of the state that I go to, they either don't have a hospital, people have an emergency, they're having to drive 1 or 2 hours, and it's really scary. So Medicaid expansion, not going to solve all of the issues with hospitals, but it certainly can be a source of revenue that would help. So that's the second major one. And a third one I'll add in is public education. And, having been a classroom teacher in Montgomery for a few years and continuing to work with young people, there's so much more we can and should be doing to empower our young people, expose them to different opportunities, make sure we're paying our teachers well and retirees. I've talked to someone who taught, almost 40 years teaching, educating our children. We always say how much we appreciate teachers, but on his retirement from the state, he's barely able to afford his bills and healthcare expenses. So looking at their retiree benefits and saying, look, we got to help out a little bit more. So that's just a few, but I can go on all day, but there's a lot I would want to focus on.
I think a lot of times we hear the word governor, and people know who that person is. We're not okay out. But I think your position goes kind of under the radar just a tad bit. Could you tell the audience and tell me, all right, what is the job of the lieutenant governor?
Absolutely. So I think about it in two different ways. There's the aspect of it where the lieutenant governor is the president of the state senate, so that presides over the Senate. Every time the state senate is in session and they're on the floor debating bills, the lieutenant governor sits there on the dais and presides over that. Part of that duty then also is appointing people to state boards and commissions. But the part that those are all very important. The part that I would really focus on that I think is not being done enough now is having a policy focus where the lieutenant governor is trying to bring together state senators, working in the lower chamber with the House, working with the governor to say, hey, we can do this to expand access to healthcare. We should have this legislation or this budget item that's going to help people expand opportunities for their children. So I would really focus on proposing things and then working to get the votes and share that information then with the public. I get it. The public, doesn't have all day to sit there and keep track of all the bills, but sharing that information, communicating with people would be a big part of it.
When you win, I always tell candidates when you win. It's going to be tough. But this is a red state, right? And so you still don't have a lot of Republicans in office. I know the Democrats say they want to have a blue wave, but right now, there is a red wave here in Alabama. And if Doug and you are there, right? How do you plan to work with the Republicans? That's going to be tough to try to get things through because, of course, they're mad because they didn't win at the top. And so we've seen politics at its worst when you have a divided house.
Yeah.
So how do you guys plan to work with the compromise there?
Yeah, so in my 4 years as a state legislator from Montgomery, I have stood firmly when it comes to my belief in democratic principles and values and against bad bills, but I've worked really well across the aisle to get things done. There were people who said to me when I got elected, they're like, well, you're not going to get anything done, and you'll be there, and all you're going to do is vote against stuff and be on the defensive. And I said, no, I want to form good relationships. I want to have where we can disagree, and we do disagree on a lot of things.
Right.
And it is vigorous debate. It's passionate debate. But the way I handle it is that always a handshake at the end with my colleagues when we disagree on something, approaching them afterwards and having a further conversation. So I've gotten things done. I led the effort to ban Glock switches, which turn a handgun into a machine gun. I did that by working really well with the Speaker of the House and Republican colleagues. I secured funding for a mental health program by working with the Republican education budget chair. So I've done that, and will continue to do that. And that's how it's how you approach
and
people.
You have a rapport with people already. So that's a good thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And people know, where I stand. I do not shy away from taking a position, but it's how I go about it. And so I've done that. And so certainly by look, in order to get things done, I absolutely would work across the aisle as lieutenant governor and continue what I'm doing now of, yes, fighting the bad and standing firm when I don't agree with something, but then finding that common ground when it exists.
I know last week there was a special session and there was a lot of things going on. And then I think KIB on yesterday went into doing another one that's going to happen. How is that going to affect you guys? Yeah, so it's confusing, to say the least. There is, and I understand for people out there, it has been a flood of information and special sessions and court orders and orders by the governor and the primary and special primaries. It's a lot to keep up with, even for the most informed, person and voter out there. So a couple of effects of it. It affects the congressional districts. And that then can impact the funds that the state gets. So if you have a member of Congress from Alabama who's advocating for funds for rural hospitals or advocating for funds for military bases in the state, or they're advocating for things that are going to help working people, I mean, all of that can impact the state and some of the funding that we get. So as lieutenant governor, that can impact then what I can advocate for to get in the state budget or get out to people to help in their communities. So that's part of it. But for a lot of people, and I certainly understand this, feel that their voice and their vote is being diluted and feel that they will not be fairly represented. And that's a huge concern. And my biggest message to people is, I hear you and I understand it, but keep getting out there and voting. And I know we say every election is the most important, and this time it matters even more. Every election matters a lot, and it has a real world impact on people. So that the redistricting or the special session that we had now will allow for a special primary election in August for some congressional seats. So I want people out there to understand that it's really important to still get out there next Tuesday, May 19th, and vote. But then for some congressional seats, people have to go back in August and vote again. And it's so important, though, to continue to do that. So basically, the message here is, when you see an election, go vote.
Exactly.
Bottom line, because like you said, I think even me, and I would say I'm pretty astute when it comes to politics. I'm like, what and what?
Yeah.
And she did what for what district? And because first you said line, but now you're talking about district, and then you're talking about, all the different things, the way they're putting it out there. And I think people are confused about what's being diluted, what's being moved away. Because depending on what party you're talking to, one person will say, well, the Republican party says that they're going back to what was already on the book. And the Democratic party says basically the books were against for the Black community. So now the books were actually where it is fair. And so now y'all trying to change it back to where it's unfair again. You be the judge of that, right? How you want to look at that. What I see here, and I said this on other shows that I've done, if you see anybody fighting real hard for a particular thing, it's important.
Yeah.
If both sides are fighting for it, you need to wake up and figure out which side that you want to be on, regardless of what side it is, right? Whether you're Republican or you're Democrat, whether you're man or woman, you need to sit down, because this is going from a special session to another special session to everybody trying to redraw lines and stuff trying to be done. Even if you don't understand it, you need to find out who you need to vote for. Don't try to understand everything. Just talk to somebody you trust and find out who you need to vote for either side and get out there and vote. Because a lot of times people don't have the time to go back and try to understand their lines and districts and all that stuff. But I think it's important that we use this platform and everybody get out there and vote, vote, vote.
Yeah, and to your point, the ballots with all the candidates they're printed online. You can do a quick Google search for sample ballot, for your county. So, for people in Jefferson County, of course, but anywhere in the state, and look at who's on there. And what I would encourage people to do is do a Google search, look at their social media, and you don't have to spend hours and hours doing it, but get a little bit of a sense of what their track record is. I say this all the time. If someone's running and says that they care about our children and care about schools, but they haven't done anything as far as mentoring young people, or they don't have a track record of doing that, they haven't served on the board of a YMCA or of a nonprofit, like, don't just go by what they're saying in their campaign. And that goes for me too. Go by the track record of what has that candidate done, what have they accomplished, what has their work been, because anybody can get out and campaign and say they're going to do all sorts of great things, but if they haven't been doing that before, if they haven't been working on behalf of people, then I'd be a little skeptical. So yeah, the going out to vote is so important, but doing, I know we say it all the time, do your research. These days, right, going on social media and getting a little bit of a sense of that person can help.
You're the legislator, right? So you're that guy with information. I need help on this one, okay? For all our novice voters out there, can you break down how to look at the ballot in the primaries, and then how to look at the ballot in the general? Because if I'm not mistaken, in the primaries you can vote either or,
right?
But in the general you can only vote one way. Can you explain to us in simplistic terms what people need to do on May the 19th if they're voting for you?
Yeah, so first, when they go in and show their ID to check in at their polling place, they then will be asked if they want a Republican or Democratic ballot. I certainly hope that people ask for a Democratic ballot. And then there are a bunch of races on there, but the lieutenant governor's race is the second race, and would ask that people vote and support me for that. And then in the general election, it's just one ballot that everybody gets, and that will have the Democrat and the Republican nominees on there. So if I'm fortunate enough to win, or to use your words, when I win on Tuesday the 19th, and then I'm on the November ballot, so I certainly ask if people would bubble me. And I would ask, not just Democrats. I mean, people in November, anyone that wants a leader that is focused on solutions, that's focused on reasonable ideas, that wants to not, there's so much you put on the TV, and look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I mean, these TV ads are crazy, and it's anti this, anti that. It's not for anything. The only thing they're for is Trump, and you're not hearing them say, well, they're for keeping hospitals open in Alabama, they're for supporting our children in Alabama. And I would encourage people, if they're even Republican, independent, whatever their party affiliation or may be, I ask for their vote and support, and say, look, I'm going to serve and represent all Alabamians to try to do what's right.
So let's go here. So you've been serving, you're running for lieutenant governor. Right now, with everything going on, right, for your campaign, when you win, what's the first thing you're going to do after this May 19th election?
That's a very good question. First would respond to texts and calls from family and friends, and certainly respond to that. But then, look, I'm someone, I got to not only get back to work, but just continue the hard work. I'm not someone that, and yes, of course, it's important to celebrate and take in the moment, but I'm going to wake up the next day and say, all right, I need to get back out there.
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah. Why did I know you were like, I'm getting back on the campaign trail again?
But I will say that I am, I will though, and I will take time though to visit family and be with friends. And my sister had a baby 3.5 months ago, so I have a newborn nephew, so spending a little bit of time with him. So I promise I'm not, yes, I'm going to keep working, but I'll carve out that time to visit family.
Phillip, let me ask you this, because I know you have a great team. How important is it to have a good team in a campaign like this?
Oh, it's huge, and it could make or break a campaign, and that goes for life as well. I mean, the people that you surround yourself with, if they are first off, honest with you. I don't want people around me that are just saying, "Oh yeah, we're doing great, we're doing great." People say, "Yes, this is what we're doing well. This is what we need to improve on. This is what is not going so well," and then have ideas of how to fix some of that. And then people that are organized, and in campaigns, it's not the most glamorous work always. It's not just about going for the stuff that looks good. There's a lot of behind the scenes work of putting together graphics and getting yard signs out to people and having all the right signage for events. So I'm really grateful, and it takes people that really care. And to me, it's important that I surround myself with people that don't just view it as a job or that it's just one campaign to another, but that they genuinely care about the future of our state and are part of a collective effort to try to move that forward.
Let me ask you this, because I know how I do. How do you deal with something when your team comes to you and they tell you something that you don't want to hear in the middle of when you're busy, you got 50 things going? How do you deal with it?
Yeah, so taking a deep breath and knowing that they have my best interests at heart, and we can go back and forth on it, but I'm pretty open to I'm open to the feedback and rather hear that. So we have, and I say this on the campaign team, if we have are talking about something, we may have 5 different people with 5 different opinions and trying to find a consensus on, okay, we can't do what everybody wants, or it may not be. There are things that I share and propose, and they're like, "No, Phil, we're not doing that. that's not a good idea."
Right.
So just taking it in stride that they have my best interest and the best interests of the people of the state.
You want to hear what I do? So, true confession. I've been told I go from 1 to 100 quickly. Right.
Yeah.
But I tell my team, I'm only venting to you. Right. So when I hear something, right, and I don't like it, I'm not going to say it to the situation, but the person on the phone can get it.
And it helps. Look, you have to have people in your life that you can just vent and express it to. And I've found that they're like, even sometimes when you want to respond to someone, like the trick kind of like write the letter to them or type out what you want to say, but don't actually send it, because there are people
that will do it. Because see, I got my temper is quick, but my actions are slow.
Yeah.
So
it's important.
Like now with my team, if I see something or I hear something I don't like, I get very quiet, or I say, "Give me 5."
Yeah.
Because about whatever I'm thinking, if I want to say it, no one's going to like what I'm about to say. I always say, "Give me 5." Or I just sit there in silence for a little while.
And one of the big reasons I focus so much on conflict resolution for young people is that too often, and I think one too many times is too much, but young people will pick up a gun and use that to resolve a dispute or a difference, and teaching our young people how to calm down in those situations and to acknowledge that it is human nature. You're going to get angry. You're going to have differences with people, but how you then deal with it, and being able to say, take 5 minutes, take time to go talk to someone. If it means going to the gym, if it means meditating, if it means going to scripture and reading some verses. I mean, whatever it may be, they're listening to certain music, and that's so important. It's like it is inevitable that we're going to get annoyed and pissed at people, but how do we deal with it?
Strangely enough, I work with a program in the Birmingham school system called Common Ground, Conflict and Resolution.
Sure.
Right. And so we teach those things or how to resolve those things. Right. I've worked with Judge Sparks for over the last 3 years with that program. Right. Really great program. And it taught me a lot, because these young people are not as bad as we put them out to be, number one. And the other thing is they're inundated with quick reactions because of social media.
Yeah.
We wasn't inundated with quick reactions. You remember, Phillip, let's just be honest, right? You remember back in the day when we was in school, when we'd get into a fight, we pushing on each other. We get all up each other's face, bumping head. What you gonna do? What you gonna do, right? They don't do that no more, right? They think is something different, right? Where how they resolve their conflicts. We could get into a fight on the playground, and when we get out of school, being you friends again, right? It changed because of social media. the fight got on social media. Everybody in ragged you out. So now you think you got, you know, it's different now than us being called into the principal's office. You get a pal and they sit down, both of you gonna act right, shake hands, be friends,
Right.
and work it out. So I think a lot of times, right, the day and time, as we're getting older, and I love what you guys are doing in your campaign to talk about the conflict resolution.
Sure.
That it's gonna hopefully, right, that we can get more, because in Birmingham, Alabama, I was reading something that the mayor put out 2 days ago, that crime is down in Birmingham. And shout out and kudos to the mayor and his team and the police team here in Birmingham for getting our crime down here in Birmingham, Alabama. So kudos to them for that. Last but not least, because I know you got to get here, I know you got to get back on the campaign trail. Thank you for stopping by, coffee, and conversation.
Sure.
How does God talk to Phillip? Is it a voice? Is it a sound? Is it a dream?
So I would multiple ways, and I'm Jewish and go to synagogue and find that having that time carved out for prayer and reflection is certainly a place and time, but it's there are small things all throughout the day. And I know I brought up my dad earlier, and I'll give an example. So where my grill is outside there, when he was still alive, he put in a motion sensor light that would go on at night, so I can see when I'm grilling at night. And when that light comes on, you know, to me, that's you know, maybe his way, God's way of saying, hey, I'm with you, or communicating things. And when I really find it, though, when I listen to like older speeches, so I'll listen to lots of Dr. King sermons, or I'll listen to Bobby Kennedy, and that's when I'm hearing that, and I'm, you know, driving throughout Alabama and thinking about the history and you know, the civil rights heroes and those that sacrifice. I mean, that's when I feel like I start to get that still small voice and that message and really speaks to me. And I'm like, all right, this is not the noise and the ego, but this is you know, God's way of speaking and reaching out. So, you know, that's a big way of doing it. And I just want to, if I can circle back though to the last point you made about crime, that I know how many families, particularly, I mean, for any crime, but especially gun violence, for families that have lost young people and their children. And I've lost 11 of my former students from when I taught. And I know how important it is that we always acknowledge how hard that still is. And I know that at times we talk about, you know, from a legislative standpoint, from a policy standpoint, and leaders that acknowledge the pain. And I know that the mayor here certainly does that. And that's certainly something that I strive to do, is acknowledge the human suffering, you know, talk about the trauma that people go through, and for our young people to say, hey, it's okay to be upset. It's okay that you're angry about this. And for those of us in leadership positions, you know, trying to expand access to those kinds of conflict resolution programs, mental health programs, spiritual programs, things that are going to help people deal with those really difficult things in life.
I said I had 2 more questions, but I got 3 now.
Yeah, sure.
No, it's quick. It's quick. I am fond of languages.
Sure.
Teach me one word in Jewish that I wouldn't know.
Yeah. So the Hebrew word for peace is shalom.
So I know that one.
And so that and so another one, so say the Hebrew word for God is Hashem. Hashem. And there are other, you know, and there are a few words, you know, Hebrew words for God, but Hashem is one. But the thing I like about shalom is that it's peace, but it's also a way you greet people. So like, instead of just saying hey or hello, you can say shalom.
Shalom.
And
is it shalom, or how's it pronounced?
Shalom.
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 Okay, shalom.
Yeah, and it depends.
Shalom.
Everyone has a slightly different variation on it, but you know, that is you know, the fact that it's not just saying peace, but it's how you greet people.
Is it saying peace be with you, or just say peace? If I say shalom, it's like
shalom. It's saying like yeah, peace be with you, or peace to you.
That's what I was told. It's like peace be with, peace to you.
Yeah. So you know, that's an important one.
Okay, I like this. Shalom.
Yeah.
And what's the other one?
Hashem, which is a word for God.
God. Hashem. Shalom. My last question to you is, for you right now, out of everything you experience in your life, losing your father, your mom still being one of your strongest supporters, what would you tell the 15-year-old Phillip, right? If you could go back now and look at him and whisper into his ear, what would you tell him?
Yeah, no, I love that question, and I think about it a lot. I was I still am. I'm very serious. I was very serious at 15, and I'm glad that I was. But I would tell myself to have a little bit more fun and be a little bit less serious. And I would, share that with other people. Yes, work hard. And for young people, your grades and where you go to college and internships, all that matters tremendously. But taking some time, enjoying life, taking in those moments, you won't regret that. Don't do it in excess or in an extreme, but if you're someone who's really focused and serious, take some time to also enjoy and relax. And as I say that, I realize what you'll probably say to me is, as I work so hard on the campaign, I probably should do a little bit more,
We're all thinking,
that.
Everybody in the coffee shop and everybody watching right now, we're saying, Phillip.
Listen, I'll relax when the state expands Medicaid, when we improve our prison conditions, when we help working people. But there's so much work to be done, and I gotta keep going.
All right, Phillip. Thank you so much for coming.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Well, what we always do, I always get my audience to you. Your camera's right there. Tell them what you want to tell.
Well, thank you all.
Right.
This one right here, perfect. Let me make sure I get the right one.
And you can sit back and relax. Hey,
Appreciate you all tuning in and listening to this conversation. I've certainly asked for your vote and support May 19th, and then again in November. And I'm someone who have the record of service. I'm want to continue to help make a difference in people's lives. I want to represent all Alabamians. So I ask for your support and please, reach out. I'm someone, if you message me on social media, if you go on my website, phillipensler.com and email me, we will get back with you, and communicating with the public is so important. And I'll say this to everyone out there. I know life is hard. There are challenges, there are struggles. Politics can be a real turnoff for a lot of people, but continuing to stay the course, persevere, and know that there are people like me that are going to try to keep doing everything we can to help make Alabama a better place.
All right, guys. Y'all heard it from Phillip Ensler. He's running for lieutenant governor. Go out there and do your homework. Make sure that you guys go out there and do your homework on all your candidates. This is from your boy Joe, like Mr. Colbert. We've had a lot of candidates on the show. Like I told you guys, I don't endorse anybody. This platform is for you to be informed by your candidates. Make sure you do your homework on your candidates. What I ask you to do, implore you to do, May 19th, go vote. After you made your choices, right? And good luck to all the candidates out there, right? And all of you, when you win, right?
Well, we can't all win.
I know they're gonna be winners, right? I don't know who.
Yeah.
But when you win, I would invite you to come back on the show. We'd love to have you. But guys, go enjoy the rest of your day. It's Thursday, man. This is a special edition of Coffee with Conversation. And I thank a lot for the candidate running for Lieutenant Governor Phillip that's stopping by here. He got to get back on the campaign trail. And I'm going to let you guys get back to your day. And you know how I feel about you, right?